Hi, thank you all so much for joining us today for the Don't Be a Kitten in Your Written Champ Camp workshop. Today we have two panelists with us, Chloe and Jasir. Could you both please introduce yourself with your name, school, and past DECA accomplishments?
Yeah, so hi everyone. I'm Chloe Lee. I'm a senior at the Harker School, and some past accomplishments are I had second at states for writtens, which qualified me to compete at ICDC, where I placed top 10, sixth place, and I have some top threes at my district conference, SVCDC.
Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Jasir Baig. I'm co-pres of Martin Luther King High School in Southern California, and I'm also a senior. Some of my past accomplishments are this past year I got second at district in my role play event. I got sixth in TTDM at state and fifth in PMBS, and then I competed at ICDC and got fourth place overall.
Nice, thank you. So starting with the first question, how did you research or find the information for your written events? And do you both have any particular sources you would like to share?
Yeah, so when you want to research your events, I think DECA.org is really useful, and it's really organized based on all of the clusters. And when you click on a cluster, if you just scroll down, there's a whole list of all the events that go under it. And there's also like sample roleplay prompts that you can like skim over and see if that's something you're interested in. There's also like past um, written events from past winners that you can view. It's like a ton of resources in that one website, so I definitely recommend checking it out when you have time. I would say there's also like a lot of YouTube videos from like previous or maybe even current members that walk you through like a specific written event or like tips for a specific written event. So yeah, there's like a lot of smaller resources out there as well.
Yeah, I think Chloe said it like perfectly. I normally mainly just use DECA.org. I think it's a perfect website. It has all the best resources. I use like specifically some information on DECA.org that I used to pick my event was like page limits because I know that like kind of really affects how many competitors are in each event. Um, the guidelines, obviously, the rubrics, all of those things really help you choose what written event you want to compete in. And then also like just the general guidelines shows you like what each event encompasses and what you might align with personally. And then I also like if you have the privilege of going to state competition and it's not your first year in DECA, looking at what the competitive landscape at state is really helps you choose what role play or written event you may want to go into in the future.
Very insightful. So, on to another question for some of our members that maybe haven't done written presentations or any actual role plays yet. So, what do you think is the ideal time to begin working on your written presentations, and how long does it usually take you?
Okay, so it like definitely depends on like the person and what kind of written event you do. So I've done the IMCs ever since my freshman year. Well, except this year I'm trying to like switch it up a bit. But what I realized is that for like the like description or of like the event or product or service, it's really helpful if you want to like maybe interview the business's employees or maybe even the manager, but organizing a time to chat can take a really long time. So like I remember one of the slightly bigger companies, they wouldn't respond to our emails and we couldn't like eventually meet up, things like that. Also you should like take account of the fact that like you'll definitely procrastinate sometimes. Like if there's going to be a week of like just school extracurriculars that you just don't have the time to work on them. So given all of those factors, I would recommend like maybe September is like a really safe area to start, I think, in my opinion. And like if you set your mind to start at September or maybe even the beginning of October, then you have like more than 3 months until like the deadline for like your like district conference. I know for like SVCDC it's due like December 8th. So but again, it like depends on what kind of person you are and like how you organize your time.
Yeah, so I'm from SoCal, so it's a little different because we don't have writtens at district. But yeah, so I've competed in writtens every year. I've been in DECA. So my freshman year, I did entrepreneurship, EIB, and I kind of waited till last day. So I've pretty much done everything. My sophomore year, I got bumped into a written, and again, that was kind of last minute. So going into this written, I was really motivated. So I started my written really, really early, and I feel like that was key to my success. And it's also really important because it's PMBS, Project Management Business Solutions. So you actually have to implement and like see a solution throughout the thing, kind of like IMCS, I believe. But yeah, so you have to actually implement things and see results. Whereas in entrepreneurship, we kind of just developing ideas. So we started our role play. I mean, our written. I keep saying role plays. We started our written in like May of my sophomore year, and then I competed with it at state my junior year. So February my junior year. So we started brainstorming in May, and then we did like the bulk of our written over summer, and then the rest of the school year, like to avoid getting burnt out with like junior year because it was like the most academic year. We kind of just like spent the time like putting together all of our efforts during the school year.
Yeah, definitely. So on another note, how do you both end out your presentation and wow your judges? Because I think like definitely closing out is so important in your presentation.
Yeah, so about that. So I think what my partner and I do is like I don't really know about like the ending, but more throughout the presentation. Since I only did the IMCs, what my partner and I do is like we have printouts of like sample marketing flyers that we laminate or maybe even have like a calendar. And then at ICDC, I remember like some of the competitors had like an actual custom shirt, and I thought that was pretty cool. And then my sophomore year, I had like sample marketing videos that I played, like short 20 to 30 seconds that I would play in the middle of the presentation. And then at the end, my partner and I would like actually give the physical like marketing, like actual physical like plans that we had for our judge so that our judge could like keep it at the end of our presentation. But also like I really recommend having the ending like really memorable, right? So maybe like having a slogan at the end. I know some people can find that like a bit awkward, but if it works, it works. So I think those are my tips on how to end a written presentation.
Yeah, so my answer is actually really similar to Chloe. So me and my partner were, to be honest, very poor with practicing our presentation. So we would like spend time doing it like the night before. But so our intros and our endings weren't very like didn't really stand out, to be honest, because by the end of the presentation we were kind of like ending abruptly because we would be short on time. And when you're doing a rain and you've been working on it for like so many months, you have so much information in your head that you want to blur out and give the judge. So it could be really hard to condense and fit the time limit. So that's something that's really important to members to keep track of and make sure that you're on time and ending with judge questions. But yeah, so to kind of wow our judges, we also played a video like Chloe. I think that was the one thing that really made it stand out because the video it's important to not like play like random things that don't relate to your written, obviously, or yeah, detract from it. But ours was like really a good example of what we did together, and it had strong rhetoric. So every time we played the video, we noticed that the judges would smile no matter who the judge was. So that was something that really gave us like the confidence booster and made us feel like stood out apart from everyone else.
So we touched on this a little bit with talking about how to end your presentations and wow your judge. But what else do you think made your written stand out from all others, whether it's the written portion or the presentation portion?
Okay, so what I would say is my partner and I, like, we really like knew our event. So I feel like if you just, as long as you write your own like written event and you really know what's going on, you know, like as much as possible about that specific business you're working on, as long as like you're like confident enough and you really show that in your presentation, I think the judges can tell that you're really confident and you really like understand and know what you're talking about pretty much. So I think that's like really important, and like practicing your written event is like really crucial. But also like some of the things that I didn't mention before that like my partner and I did was like we included so what my partner and I did was marketing like a local nail salon. So the menu that they had wasn't, it was kind of like outdated a bit. So we like helped redesign their menu, and then we had it like laminated, printed out. We did the same with like the calendar, so we had like a lot of physical like marketing materials that we gave to our judge, and then also like the video that I mentioned already. So being like really creative, and then having some like physical things that you could give to your judge or maybe show, and then also being like confident is like really important.
So I think, like Chloe said, being unique and creative is really the most important thing to stand out. So for me personally, with my written, I think it's kind of cliche to say, but I think like almost every aspect was really unique, which is what set us apart. So I know a lot of people in PMBS work with like corporate businesses or just regular businesses, but we chose to work with a small business with a huge community impact, and that really set us apart from other people. And then we chose to address a problem that was really severe and like difficult to address. So we really challenged ourselves, and I think that's what set us apart. And then like our implementations were really like unique. I think there were things that you wouldn't really think that high schoolers would have the opportunity to do, and that was in part because of the business that we worked with. So like having that good platform and then building upon it really sets you apart. So like for our implementations, we did things like brand deals, we did public interviews, pop-up events. So they were like unique solutions to the problems that you probably wouldn't have thought of.
Nice, thank you. So, since a lot of our members that are tuning into Champ Camp will be starting out for their first written events, what is the best piece of advice you can give to these new members?
Well, first, I would say like really have fun with it. Be creative. Don't like stress too much about it. If you know the written project yourself and you know what you're doing to an extent, you'll be fine. Do a lot of practice too. But also, aside from that, I would say like research is really important no matter what written event you do. So before you actually get started, really take the time to research about the particular business or company, as well as like maybe competitors, things like that. Um, it like really depends on the written event, to be honest, but like just remember to do like a lot of background research is what I'd say.
Yeah, so adding on to what Chloe said, if you're doing your first written project, you may want to look at like other examples. I know DECA.org has ICDC examples, like the top three from the previous year. So that's really good ways to see kind of what you're expected to do in your written project, how you can elevate your written project and make yourself stand out. And I kind of touched on this earlier, but I really do think starting your written project earlier is like the most important advice I can give you because burnout is real and you have all the time to work on your written all the time in the world because it's a prepared event and you really don't want to wait till last minute and burn yourself out. So it's also important to choose something that you're really passionate about. I was passionate about the business that I worked with, so that gave me motivation to continue working on it without getting burnt out and making sure that was the highest quality that could be.
Okay, so just quickly, we want to also touch on some visuals. So visuals are an integral part in all DECA presentations, no matter if they're written or role plays or team role plays as well. So what are some visuals that you guys have included in your presentation, and what visuals do you think are the most impactful?
So I like touched upon this earlier. So since I did like since I did a since I did a nail salon, what I did was like have a menu redesign, and then we actually had like a sample marketing video, and we also made a lot of like sample Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter posts for marketing. And then I think we also did like an entire sample website redesign as well. And so as for like which ones are most impactful is I would say like it depends on what you talk about in your written event. So if you really focus on like improving like social media retention rates or things like that, and how you want to like switch up and increase the number of like following counts for your social media platforms, then I would say like definitely focus on like sample social media posts. Or like if you want to, if your written is like particularly on like changing like the website to increase like the number of members who are interested in your like company or business, then I would say like focus on that. So like I would say like it really depends, and what's really important is to like really be creative in how and like the kinds of visuals that you make for your presentation.
Yeah, so for my written, we actually use a lot of visuals. So to begin, since we worked with an apparel brand, we brought apparel from the company and we had like the bag that it comes with, and then we had that on the desk for the judge to look at and see and get some background knowledge on what the company is. We had like a little business card from the company, and then we had the TikTok video that I mentioned that showed our implementations. And then we made like these pamphlet brochures that we gave to brands to maybe like to communicate a brand deal that we wanted to work with them that we used during our project. So we gave those printed out to our judges as well. And we had promotional flyers that we printed out. And then at the end, anything that was on our board that we felt was important, but maybe too small for the judge to see. So for example, like key metrics, like graphs and things like that, that would emphasize our impact and our actual difference that we made. We printed it out and we handed it to the judge for them to keep later, like Chloe mentioned in her presentation. So those were all of our visuals. But I think the most impactful ones are the ones, at least for the project management events, the ones that relate to your actual implementation and impact that you had towards the issue or whatever you're trying to promote or manage. So for example, in my case, that would be like the brochures, the TikTok video, the things that were part of our actual implementation and marketing plan.
Thank you. So now for some questions that pertain to your experiences specifically. So for Jasir, you talked a bit about how you interacted with your local business. So how did you determine what local business to center your project around? And could you tell us your process in contacting and interacting with them?
Yeah. So I wish it was an interesting story to be honest, but so when we were deciding our event, again, I said we started like really early. So we had just like a Google Doc with the different events that we were thinking of competing in. I know we were thinking of competing in the business growth and a couple other events. So for each event, we had basically like the list of ideas that we would have for each one if we were to compete in them. So for PMBS, we had like I personally really wanted to participate with a company that had a strong community impact. So we had like free clinics on there. We had other companies, and then we had the one company that we ended up choosing called One Love IE, which was like a local apparel brand in our neighborhood or in our region. And basically, I knew who they were because the CEO was a graduate from my school, and my deck advisor really does talk about how great the CEO is. So I was kind of inspired to work with them. So I asked my deck advisor for his phone number, and then I texted him, and from there he basically offered us an internship opportunity to work with him and help address an issue with this company. So yeah, we just sent him a text message, a very professional text message, letting him know who we are, what we're doing. We're from DECA, from Martin Luther King High School. We wanted to help him with maybe these potential issues, and it went from there. Started meeting them at their location, and yeah.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. Since like it's so amazing that you guys were able to get an internship from that and just like letting the members, new DECA members know that so many experiences can come from competition that aren't always necessarily competitive. So for Chloe, what was the most challenging part of your marketing campaign and how did you overcome it? Because I know you talked a bit about how sometimes the businesses would fall through and you guys wouldn't be able to work together.
Yeah, so in my freshman year, I actually did a marketing campaign for like Muji, which was probably not a good idea considering how like big of a company it is. So when we reached out through like email, and there was also like a small section in their website where we could like ask questions. So we did everything we could. We tried to like Instagram DM them too, but like we didn't really get a response, and I think we got one response, but it was like really late and we never really got any follow-up. So after that, we decided to like really reach out earlier to like a local nail salon. And so I think that like really helped in my like sophomore or no, my junior year. And that really worked out because we were able to like secure a time and really have that interview. So at my school, we have like a mentorship program. So I am a mentor for 5 like students at my school. And so I really recommended that they like really follow up with their businesses like really early on and to not like kind of procrastinate that and try to set like a meeting to like interview them earlier. So I think that was one challenge and I overcame it. That's what I would say.
Thank you both for sharing your experiences and your advice. So now let's move on to the Q&A session. And for anybody that's in our meeting right now, if you have a question, you can put it in the chat and either of our panelists will answer it. So for either Chloe or Jasir, there's a question that says, tips on reading a judge, or do you go in with your original presentation even if they don't seem engaged or into it?
Okay, wait. So my advice is so I had like a lot of like different judges, I would say. Like once I had a judge who seemed like really interested, she was like nodding along and then we were like, okay, like my partner and I thought that like she was like, okay, like she liked our presentation. And so we kind of had high expectations, you know, and we didn't like place at all. On the other hand, there was one judge who seemed like he didn't care at all, and I was really worried. He was like he had like a stern face, like he had no facial expression. So that's when my partner and I were like, okay, like we're kind of screwed. And when we did that, I think we still stuck with the original presentation, except we kind of like tried to change our like facial expressions a bit, like change our intonations, things like that. But my for that presentation, we surprisingly got like a solid second place. So I would say don't like read too much into like don't try to like interpret what your judge might think because like I think that can just like make you like overstressed or maybe even overconfident. It like depends. So really like don't think about it unless your judge is like actually not paying attention at all, like maybe just like looking at his fingers or things like that, like and is obviously tuning out. That's when I would say like okay, like try to like change your like intonation or try to make things more engaging, maybe like ask like a rhetorical question so that like they maybe like look up and it becomes more interested. I think that would be my main advice, but also like if they don't look as if they're like as focused as you would hope, don't like read too much into it.
Yeah, I agree with Chloe. So typically I had some really unique judge experiences at ICDC. So for like the first round, we had a judge who served in the military. So they came in their full uniform and that was honestly not what I was expecting. So it was a little intimidating for me. But the judge was really into it. She loved our presentation and well she was stern faced the whole time, but at the video that I presented, she smiled. So that again gave me the kind of confidence that I needed to get on a roll. So and she moved us on to the next round. We were the only team that was moved on from our blocks. So that really did show that despite her facial expressions that she liked our presentation. So you really don't know what a judge is thinking. And then in the final round, we had a judge who really was not looking at us at all. He wouldn't make eye contact. He was just fiddling with his thumbs. So we were really worried post presentation about what he thought of our presentation because, like I said, we normally just stick to what we were going to do. We do try to, seem more enthusiastic, but enthusiasm is always the goal. So we're always trying to be as enthusiastic as possible because it's really important. So we were really worried, but he still gave us fourth place out of the 20 teams in the second round. So we were, it doesn't really matter what the judges displaying to you. They have really good poker faces. They could be dealing with things different ways that so it really doesn't matter. It's just do the best that you can and hope for the best.
Nice. So are there any other questions? Anyone can unmute or put it in the chat again. Okay, if there aren't any more questions, we can end Champ Camp on this note. And like I previously said before, this will be uploaded on our YouTube, so anyone can use it if they want to watch it again, or if you all want to share with your members these pieces of advice that our two panelists have prepared for us today. So thank you to Chloe and Jasir, and we'll be ending Champ Camp on this note. Thank you.